this episode, I speak to Ruth Kudzi about the essential ingredients needed to become a successful coach. We also talk about the need for legacy and commitment to personal development. In a conversation filled with laughter, we ponder on the coach's biggest procrastinating tools and the effect of pricing models on the coach's business and the need to drop your facade and embrace your vulnerability. Listen up for more of our conversation. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And in today's conversation, I speak to Ruth Kudzi. Hi, Ruth.
Hello, great to be here.
And it's good to have you too. I've been very excited about our call today. Before we begin, tell us a little bit about you.
So I am a coach. I'm a qualified coach, a coach trainer, an author, a teacher. I mean, really everything that it comes down to is I help train people to become coaches. And I help coaches build successful businesses. So it's a combination of training, teaching and coaching.
Wow. And I think especially now, it's very, very much needed. Have you seen your sales go up significantly now?
So I've got two businesses. I've got a coach training business, which started in November last year. And our first cohort had 9 people. Our second cohort started in October. And we've got 23 people already signed up. We've got a maximum of 20 in each group, so a maximum of 40. So obviously we've seen quite a bit of growth there. It's difficult to know if this is related to what's going on or not. And my other business has been, we've seen growth too. So it's always difficult, Judith, like what is the reason behind this? I think definitely with training, I think a lot of people are thinking, how can I upscale? How can I make myself more recession proof? And then other people are thinking, okay, I really need to get this support because this business now is more important than ever.
It's true, but you also reap the benefit of being so well known.
Yes, definitely.
So that's really interesting, and it just demonstrates the need really to have a reputation. Not just in the good times, but especially in the bad times. And I think when I speak to my clients, and you can see where there's going to be significant demand in the future, I'm sort of saying to them, you can't wait until that demand hits because you need a backstory, you need the breadcrumbs, you need, when they are looking for you specifically, they need to be able to see all the stuff that you've done and what you say. Otherwise, you don't stand out and you won't have a reputation for success.
So true, isn't it? And actually, it is always, I always laugh about this, like the overnight success that took 40 years. But but it is the stuff that you do before. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I haven't done anything before, you have. Like, I have clients that I went to school with and they recommend me to people. So it's not only what you do right now, it's also like the legacy of everything that you've done in your life. And that doesn't mean that people are going to judge you from school. I think most of us now know that that person that we were at school is not likely to be that person we are later on. But it's kind of nice as well, isn't it, that people evolve with you?
Yes, it is. And I think that kind of longevity is really important as well, I think. I mean, and I think it's like I was talking to a guy I've known for well over 15 years now, and he said, what I love about you, Judith, is that you've always been talking about Mavericks. Because how you've talked about it has changed over the years, and obviously what you do has changed over the years, but you've consistently, been about this maverick cause. And I think that in some respect provides some sort of confidence, doesn't it? That, you're not, one day you're talking about this and the next day you're talking about that.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, but when she talks about grit, she says grit, you're always on the same path, and that path may slightly deviate, but I find it so interesting because when I was reading it, I was like, oh, well, maybe this isn't me. And I'm like, well, yeah, it is kind of me. Like I studied psychology and business at university in the 90s. And so like, even though the way I've been doing things like you might be different, it's been pretty much the same thing. And then you're like, oh, okay.
I know, it's really funny because I believe that we all have like one question that we are seeking to be answered, and that question comes from youth. And like, my question has been, why do people do that? And I think of all the different roles and careers and study and interest, it all comes back to, why do people do that? That's like my one question. Do you have like a question that, like, something that's driving you?
Oh my God. So mine's similar to yours.
Oh my gosh.
Mine is, why do some people succeed and others don't? Because, and I think this came, actually, I'm going to pinpoint when it came. Like, I'm from the countryside in the UK. It's near London, but it's like another world, a little village. I went to a little village school, and I would say, in my class, there were 5 girls in my year, and we all have really different outcomes. But actually, on paper, I don't think there was much difference between us academically.
Yeah.
But some of us, like, we had to do an exam. Some of us passed our trial class, some of us didn't. And there was all of this. And I was like, what is it that makes some of us more driven to succeed? And also, what is success? And what is it that doesn't? And even at the school I went to, which was a grammar school. Now, I wasn't a big fan of school, which is ironic because I became a teacher. My attendance was pretty bad. I think nowadays my mum would have been in the office the whole time. Then it was much more relaxed, thankfully for her. But again, it was like, some people were really driven to succeed, and they weren't necessarily the people that were on paper, the most academic or the most whatever word we like to give people. And that has always really interested me. And then through school, then through working in education, even in what I do now, what makes one person like just go for it, and somebody else who could have more talent not? It's fascinating. And I wish I could tell you the answer.
I was sitting there waiting with my pen ready to write down.
This is the secret of success from Ruth Kudzi. No, but I mean, it's so many different factors, isn't it? But I love it because I just believe that we've all got a purpose, and we've all got this question, like you said. But so many things can come over you, can't they? It's so funny. If you could see me, my hands are going everywhere. Could come over you and could stop you having that version of success.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. I wonder if it's the fact that some people know their question, so therefore they pursue it, and others don't. I wonder whether that's one of the factors. Because whilst I didn't recognise when I was younger that was my question, I was still pursuing that path. So whilst I didn't study formally psychology, I quickly started studying social psychology, like the why people do things as opposed to cognitively. And I ended up looking at things like persuasion, influence, why do some people manipulate and other people don't? Why do, body language, transactional analysis, and all searching for the why do you do that? Why are you a psychopath and you're not? It's just, do you know what I mean? I've always been doing that, and I can also pinpoint the time as well. And for me, it was when I was growing up. also in the UK at the time, we were the only black family in the area, and sort of like a white middle class area. And you would be going to school and someone would call your name or something like that. And I would go, why would they do that? That was where it started from. It's like, you don't know me and you just did that. Why would you do that? And that was the search as to why do some people behave in that way and others don't. And that, for me, that was that start of that journey, is trying to understand the human psyche. So yeah, we'll have to do some work together, I think.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And your story then, this is a bit of a tap, but my husband had a similar experience, and even though he lived in London, he was one of the only black boys at his school. And he'll kill me if he can hear me, so he doesn't like me talking about him. But it's quite funny because he got a scholarship to a local private school. Right. At the Dulwich College of Catford, and now my kids are at a summer camp there, and I think it's bringing back like a lot of memories for him. That it was such a different experience, and it made him ask lots of questions.
Yeah, and interestingly enough for me, it wasn't. So that experience didn't make me doubt myself or anything. I didn't see it as a reflection on me. It was more of a, that's strange. I would never make an assumption based on something like that. So why would someone do that? But it didn't get funneled down a race line. It got funneled down with people behave in different ways, in unexpected ways. I don't get that. Why is that? And I think, and I look at all my adult careers, it's always been the pursuit of that question. Why do you do that?
Yeah, like what's going on for you?
Yeah, which is not surprising that you've ended up coaching and teaching, because like coaching and teaching, it's pretty much it's very similar now, isn't it? Really. And then I've ended up on the mentoring side. And, again, it's so similar. It's just like, why do you do that? So, but except for mine has gone to this. How do you take that behaviour, or how do you get people to? So in leadership, how do you get to influence others in the right way? So it's funneled, that question's funneled in that area. And with business owners, it's funneled into how do you get people to buy your stuff? And then it looks at the whole, how you're behaving, what you're selling, how clear it is, and all that sort of stuff. And I can see something very similar with you, and you're very prolific as well. In a nice way. You're not one of those irritating people. Like how some people just pop up everywhere and you just want to go, if I ever met you in person, I might have to stop myself from strangling you because you're so irritating. You're so not like that.
I'm really glad I'm not like that. I'm sure that some people find me like that, but it's always the mirror that people see you in, isn't it? And is this somebody who I could get along with and I get, or is this somebody who's going to I'm going to have to sit on my hands if I meet them.
Well, you're right. I can't see them, so you're okay. So now you've teased me with the, why it makes some people successful, and then not answer, because I thought it was really good. Can you answer what makes someone a successful coach? Because so many people try, don't they? And then like end up charging, say, like £50 an hour or something. Which isn't really sustainable. So how do they become more successful?
I think that you need to have some sort of commercial understanding. Like, yes, it's, and I've got clients and they say, look, I just want to help people. And I'm like, brilliant. You need to, if you really want to help people, and you have to earn money, because let's be honest, most of us have got bills to pay, rent to pay, mortgages to pay, whatever it may be, then you need to make sure that your business commercially works as well. And I think that lots of people who are great coaches, they believe that being a good coach is enough. Now, being a good coach and getting an impact for your clients should, and I say that word not lightly, because should is such a, I'm saying this. Yeah, I'm saying that you definitely should. Yeah, you should put your clients' results at the forefront of what you do. That doesn't mean that you're responsible for their results. It means that you do everything in your power as a coach to facilitate that change in them, and then they have to do it. But that is the core of what coaching is. But if you want to have a coaching business and be successful in those terms, you need to think commercially, and you need to think, okay, right, if I'm going to be, I need to think about who my client is and where my clients are. And I need to do, and Todd Herman talked about this recently, actually, I need to do the mundane tasks that maybe don't excite me and energize me to get to where I want to be. So I think it's a combination of having that really clear vision of where you want to go, understanding things like pricing models and time. You know, if you're charging people £50 an hour and you want to earn, I'm going to get my calculator for this. I wish I'd known I was going to say this. And you want to earn £5,000 a month. That's 100 hours of coaching. So you'd be coaching for 25 hours a week. And if you're coaching for 25 hours a week, you're going to be energetically pretty drained, because we know that we take on energy from our clients. And if you're doing that and you're also doing your marketing and processes, you're going to be probably working 50 hours at least a week. So if you're getting paid £50 an hour, that only, you know, and you want to work 25 hours a week, which is 5 hours a day, if somebody's paying you to do that, great. And you don't need to do anything else. And you can energetically work with that. But otherwise, you really need to understand your pricing models. And lots of the great coaches, and I've said this, you know, these are people that I work with and I respect. Lots of them are brilliant marketeers. And they may not be a better coach, which is kind of comes back to my whole thing. They may not be a better coach than somebody else, but they're great at marketing what they do. And, you know, I hear people saying time and time again, well, you know, I want to be a coach, I don't want to be a marketeer. Unless you can pay someone to do your marketing for you, you have to be both.
And even if you can pay somebody, you still need to be both.
Yeah, because you need, you know, people are attracted to you if they know you. If people don't know you, and that doesn't mean that we have to all be on social media. It could be, I've got clients who they get their clients through networking and referrals, but they are great networkers. Even now, they'd be spending, you know, an hour, 2 hours a day having conversations with the right people. You know, it could be that you use ads. It could be that you do partnerships with people who've got a similar audience but do something different. It could be that you do use social media. It could be that you go on podcasts. Like I've got clients who've been on podcasts. There's lots of things that you could do, but you need to make sure that what you're doing, first of all, energizes you and fits with what you want to do, but also what you're doing is where your clients are and they get what you do and how you help them.
Yes, I think that's really... Do you know of people who sort of like steadfastly refuse to do that marketing, that, you know, so that there's some of their marketing is to put up a website and then that is it?
Oh yeah, the website. I love that. When I have a website, oh my gosh, I think the website is like the modern day procrastinators. And I tell you what, having a website is great. However, websites, you know, unless you're driving traffic to that website is just going to sit on, I don't even know where they sit, on some cloud somewhere. And the only person who's going to find it is you. Maybe your mum, if you've given her the website address. Actually, my mum would never look. But, you know, maybe your husband or your friend. A website is great, but that's kind of the second part. First of all, you need to find your people and you need to drive them there. And you don't need a website to be successful. It's great for it to be successful, but you don't need it.
Yeah, for me, it's more about presence, isn't it? So I always say to my clients is, I don't want you designing a website until we've sorted out what your proposition is, because you'll design something that looks great and it means nothing and you'd have wasted all this money. You know, let's work on what it is that you actually do. Get that right, and then, you know, then when you design a website, it's so much faster because you clearly know your proposition, you clearly know who your clients are, you know where they're going to be and what they want to do. You know, that's the best round it. I've seen people who have spent, you know, 8-10 grand on a website which looks really nice, but it's full of blah blah words that doesn't mean anything, and you're like, seriously? And then they go, well, I can't work with you because I've no money left, and you don't want to cry, not because I'm not working with you, but you just wasted your money because no matter what you do, you're going to have to change it. Where it might be better to start off on a link with a LinkedIn page and get that right, or a Facebook page or something and get that right, than it is to do the website. But you're right, I think that is the modern day procrastination. And the next one is business cards, isn't it? I can't get work because I have no business cards for my networking. And you're like, you have a smartphone and you've got LinkedIn, what's the problem?
Oh my gosh. But I'm part of the reason I'm laughing is because I remember like 4.5 years ago, or 4 years ago, in fact, because I didn't get the business card straight away. No. There's a local place where I live and they print business cards. Oh my gosh. Over that next year, how many times did I go in? I got black ones with gold on. And I still find them, like my kids use them to play with. I don't think I ever even gave anyone one. And as soon as they were done, I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to call myself that or that, because you're not, at the beginning, however much business strategy you've got, however much experience you've got, you're still feeling your way. And there's a website lady that I know, and she's like, I don't work with anyone until they've been in business for a year, because that website is going to completely change. That they might change their proposition, their ideal client, they might change their brand image. And it's so funny because we all know that, but we still people, because it's that comfort blanket, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's more of a thing if someone spent a long time in a corporate space, because they're trying to, I sort of say to people, what's the biggest problem is that people want to be Apple, but they don't want to work in the garage. They want to be Apple now. He's like, well, they spent a few years in the garage first.
Oh yeah. Well, people say to me, someone said to me today, like, oh, I really want to get to 6 figures, but I guess I'm too early. And I'm like, yeah, because you get to a 10k month after you've been at a 5k month. You're not going to go from 0 to, or very rarely, you're not going to go from 0 to 1,000 in 5 seconds. No. It takes time, and I compare it to fitness. That I used to be the worst with this. They used to have these like, this was even before Slim Fast, these things that you could have before a holiday, and it would always be like 3 days before a holiday. And I need to do something, so I'd have these disgusting flavoured shake things for 3 days, would feel awful, wouldn't make much of a difference. This is when I was like 18, would go on holiday, drink my body weight in peach schnapps and eat lots of chips. So it really didn't matter. But actually, if I wanted to lose weight and get fit for holiday, I would have been doing it 3 months before, not 3 days. But it was that quick fix. Psychologically, we all love that idea of a quick fix. We like that idea that, maybe we don't have to exercise every day. Exercise 5 times a week if we want to run a marathon. Maybe we don't have to do that consistently. And it's like our brain is looking at a shortcut, whereas in our hearts, we know it's never going to work.
Yeah, it's quite frightening, and it goes right back to both of our questions, isn't it? Like, why do people do that? And what makes somebody more successful than somebody else? And maybe it's that being there for the long haul and being very realistic at the start, So there will be some people who suddenly make a ton of money the minute they've walked out, but probably it's because they put all the effort in before they've left their corporate, and they've got a string of people all set and ready, and then it's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you, take your redundancy money, start coaching, and become highly successful in month 2. Unless you've done some prior work.
Yeah, and it is the people that I see who are doing it, like you. It's the people who have, they've had that plan, so they might have been made redundant, but they've already been keeping people warm, and often they might have been having meetings with people at work informally or from their network informally before they leave, so then they can hit the ground running. And actually that kind of happened with me, that I had my coaching business, but I also had a consulting business right at the beginning. And, my first client, I only had 2 clients in that business, was my old job. And I said, my boss was amazing. And I said to him, look, well, I'm leaving. And he's like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing this and this. And he's like, right, okay, leave it with me. And then he's like, oh, I've got a couple of things for you to do. So, that worked because I had that relationship with him.
You know what? That's so funny. I think you must be my sister or something that I didn't know about. Because something similar has happened to me, where I'd kind of decided that I was going to, at some point, run a business. So I was doing all the networking, but still like fully employed and stuff. And then I think I can't remember if I got redundant or left a job or something like that. And I decided that I wasn't going to do, this years ago, a full-time job. I was going to do interim work as a step into working for myself. So I ended up doing some interim work for quite a large company. I'd been there for a few months, and that contract was coming to an end. But they'd also needed a whole load of training. And I said, oh, I could do this training. I could design a training course and stuff. I could do that for you. And they're like, yeah, you'd be fantastic. You'd be the best person to do it. But we only work with limited companies. And I was like, oh, I've got a limited company. Because I was just sitting there like I hadn't done anything. It was just been there for like 6 months, And they went, really? And I went, yeah. And they went, fine. As soon as you stop, we'll hire you then and you can carry on. So like the first client was exactly, I had been working in that business before.
So they knew you. They had that. They had that know, like, and trust already.
Yeah. So that was quite funny, just like you. But yeah, and I think it's just that realization. So we've got, to be a successful coach, we've got obviously need a commercial understanding, clear vision, understanding the pricing models. Because a lot of the time, because when I do the pricing models with my clients, I'm like, you don't have any time in there for like getting new clients. Things like that, or the admin, this package that you've built has a lot of admin in there. So are you costing out the admin? So you've got the pricing models. What else do you think you need? How do they become like you, Ruth?
Yeah, I think you need a commitment to professional development.
Mm-hmm.
I really think you do. And even though I train coaches, you don't have to be a qualified accredited coach. Yes, that can be great, but you need to commit to training, because ultimately, and actually at the moment, it's funny that you can't see me, but at the moment this week, so for 7 days, I've done 3. I'm doing training from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. every day.
Wow.
Which is bonkers, but it's a training I really wanted to do, and obviously it's based in the States. It's funny because there's people from all over the world, so it's like 3 a.m. in the morning in Bali when it starts. I don't know what time it is in Australia. Must be maybe, I think maybe 1 a.m. in Australia, and then it's 1 p.m. in Salt Lake City. But that isn't ICF accredited. That isn't an accredited training, but it's a training that I know will help me as a coach and will help my clients. And I think if we are expecting our clients to invest in their personal development, we need to. And that doesn't mean that you need to spend thousands with a coach. Having coaching and having coaching supervision, a place where you can talk about some of the stuff that you are feeling after a session, or how you might be working through things with clients, is great. But yeah, I think that commitment to training and developing, because if you really believe in coaching and development, you're walking the walk. So your clients, doesn't mean that you need to be the mentor, but it does mean that you need to show that you are committed to this, that it's serious for you, that you're not doing it because everyone's a coach, which we probably both know that everyone loves to say that to coaches. Isn't everyone a coach nowadays?
Yeah, but they're not any good.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, whatever. I used to be a teacher, so I had friends saying to me things like, yeah, when I give up my career in the city, I might become a teacher. And that used to really upset me. But now I'm like,
I love teachers. They're so wonderful.
Now they're like, yeah, maybe I'll never be a teacher. Yeah, please let me back into the city.
Yeah.
So that commitment is definitely, it makes you stand out. And also, we can only really meet people as far as we've gone. And if we don't go to places, and that doesn't mean that we need to sit in trauma or anything like that. I'm actually, I spent many years sitting in trauma. It wasn't a very fun place to be, but we need to commit for our clients to commit.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting about that professional development, because people, again, especially come out of corporate, see that as you say, lots of accredited courses, which quite often have no bearing into what you actually do anyway. And I think it's not just coaching. I think it's the same with mentoring, consulting, any kind of service related thing. Is that, if you're a web designer, you should be up to date with the latest web designer stuff. I think, so I don't think it's specifically coaching. I think it is with everything. And I would say that, socialized mavericks are very curious, pathologically curious. So you're just kind of following your interest all over the place. And I remember talking to a client and they said, gosh, you know a lot about a lot of things. Why is that? And I was like, well, I read about marketing, I read about this. Why? That's because my clients are in these different industries. So I feel like I need to know what's happening in these industries. So then you can say to someone, with the new legislation that's, I might not know the detail of it, but I'll notice that something's coming out and I'll say, how are you preparing for this? And it's like, I'm not. Think you should. Even if that's, and I do the same if it's corporate clients as well, like, because I do a lot of leadership training, and I'll always, when I'm designing a course, a program, I always look into the industry, what's been happening, what's likely to happen, because I think it's important. So when you have that facilitated discussion, you can say, it looks like this is happening in your industry. How does that affect what you're going to do today? And you could argue that that's not strictly leadership, but I would argue, well, actually, leadership is forward thinking and forward planning. So yeah, it is. And I think that makes a difference as well. Those that say, well, I did my degree in 1965 or whatever it is, that's me done. Or those that say, yeah, I'm up to date. I'm still looking at, and saying learning can be podcasts, TED Talks, articles, talking to people. That kind, it's so many different ways to learn, and coursework's not necessarily the way it is.
Yeah, and it's what works for you. I mean, I always say, like, reading books. Like, I love reading books, but for some people, it's a podcast or an audio book or a discussion. And there's loads of great places that you can get involved in those for a low price online. I think the other thing that I see is I see so many people. And I run a coach training program as well, so I know it's not cheap. It's a significant investment, and I can tell you why an ICF coaching qualification is a significant investment, because it's a significant amount of time that you get from people on that. So that's why. But you have those programs, you invest in that, and then you're like, oh well, I'm going to have to invest something more. Maybe I have to invest in a coach or in this or in that. And that mindset often keeps people stuck, because they see it as a cost rather than an investment. And this isn't saying you have to invest thousands of pounds. It's saying, well, maybe you start at a low price membership, or maybe you get a group of people that you are on that coaching course with, and you meet every month online, or hopefully in the future in person, to discuss what's going on for you. And maybe you have a book club. You don't have to spend like hundreds of thousands of pounds to do this. And I think that is a limiting belief that people have, and it stops them from moving forward.
Also, I agree totally. And I also think another limiting belief is that people feel that they need I've got, like you, a ton of qualifications, but, what does that mean? It doesn't, for me, it's like, for some people, it's really important. But majority of the people you're going to work with are, who did you work with? What was the result? What experience you had? They're not interested that you've got a postgraduate degree in X, or because it doesn't. Even what I've noticed as well, even corporates. I think if you have no evidence of prior work, people are like looking for something they can recognise. But other than that, once you've been working, for a year or so. It doesn't matter. It's a bit like A-levels, isn't it? Like, you need it for your first job, possibly your second. After that, no one cares. It's all about experience. It's that same sort of thing. And I remember this guy I knew who had, an amazing corporate role that involved a lot of coaching of board members and stuff like that, and he was so experienced and so I actually personally knew him, so I knew he was really good at it, and he was setting up his own coaching business, but he insisted on getting a coaching qualification. I'm like, but you could teach the course. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? You're so good. There is nothing you're going to learn. Seriously, there's nothing. If you want to go, you can get someone or learn information on how to run a business, maybe. But even looking at what you did corporately, you kind of know all that, being a finance director, a HR director, an ops director, he's done everything. And he was really good. And I was like, you don't need any more training. You just need to get going. But so sometimes it's that kind of belief that I need to have letters
oh
after
my
my
God.
name. But for some people, that's really off-putting, isn't it? When they go to somebody. And so, I found that when I first came out of corporate, and they said, and I would be like, oh yes, I am a fellow chartered, and people just look at you and go, okay, and walk off. And I couldn't understand it, because I'd worked really hard to get these qualifications, and it was like, yeah, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me, So it actually became counterintuitive to, put your qualifications on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about knowing your audience, isn't it? Yes. All about knowing your audience and understanding what they want. And you've tapped on another thing there that I would say that, to be a successful coach, you need to take action, and you need to actually believe in growth mindset and model it, which means that you need to allow yourself to fail. You need to allow yourself to get things wrong. You need to get, as Brené Brown would say, you need to get into that arena, and you need to realise that what is going on in that arena may not be stylish, as my kids would say, may not be, it might be messy, it might be all of these things, and that really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all, because actually that's the way that we learn.
Yeah, it's being honest, isn't it? I think COVID-19 is driving more honesty into business, I think. And I don't mean people that lie and steal and cheat, but I mean that people are much more honest in saying, yeah, I'm not doing well. But that might mean that people go, oh, you know what, I've got someone I can refer to you. Whereas if you're like, yes, COVID-19, I haven't, hasn't impacted me at all. I've got 4 times as many clients, when in fact you've got nobody. It does not help.
No.
So I think having more, I think the facade in many places are dropping, and I think that makes you more successful, because your clients can, it's not the same. I don't mean going around weeping and going, woe betide, no one's going to give me any money ever. I mean, that's not going to help your business. But to say, yeah, I could do with some more clients. There's nothing wrong with saying that, and it's honest.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with saying, I mean, I laughed because I used to always, in one of my local parks, I'd often meet fellow people that I know from Instagram, people that I know a bit. And we'd always say, like, how is it? And I'm like, this is really hard. And they're like, are you not living your best life? I'm like, if I say that I'm living my best life on Instagram now, you can call me out and say, I've seen her, she's not. But it's people, you don't need to put yourself on a pedestal or be a guru to help people, because that isn't helpful, because people then compare themselves to you and they don't think they're good enough.
And they won't work with you either.
They won't work with you. It will make them feel that they're lacking. Be a bit humble, be a bit honest. And actually that honesty will help you get clients. The irony, it really will, because people connect with real people.
Yeah, I learned that lesson many years ago when I was working corporately, and I found that I had, because I'd been a senior manager from a very young age, so and being the only female, and the youngest person. And so I had, in my initial first years, had this persona as like, nothing rocks me, everything's fine, I know everything. Not that I know everything, but I was not vulnerable in any space at all. But then I realised that something happened, and I was vulnerable to my team in the sense of, look, this is so important. If we don't get this done, I'm probably out the door. Do you know what I mean? This is like imperative. This is going to happen. And everybody went, oh, and everyone just went, right, this is what we can do. Da, 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 da. And it just literally changed everything. And it changed my leadership style, because I realised that, there is a way to be positively vulnerable, if you know what I mean. You know, and people do buy into that, because, and then somebody said to me, I think it was one of the youngest people on my team, said, I always thought that you were impervious to everything, and I found that really intimidating. But now I know you're human. It makes it so much easier. And I thought, wow, and I'm pleased I learned that very young, as opposed to being like, I don't know, 50 and discovering it for the first time, because it makes such a difference in everything. You can just say, yeah, we really need to do this because we're going to get stuff otherwise.
And
we need you.
And actually, I think, that took me back to, I was a deputy head, and I was a deputy head when I was, so I was 32. So pretty young to be deputy head of a secondary school.
Yeah.
And I remember I was always like, I wanted to make that impression. So I always wore suits, and I was quite corporate, and I was very driven. And I remember one day being with my team, and we'd had this really bad Ofsted, and then we'd had, there'd been some very challenging things with the students there. And I cried. And oh my God, I didn't obviously cry for ages, but I cried. I got emotional. And the way that they responded to me after that was completely different, because they'd been like, oh, well, Ruth's just a machine. Like a machine that we don't really like, basically. And so, that vulnerability. And this is the thing, that it's not vulnerability for vulnerability's sake. Like,
no.
You don't need to cry if you don't feel like crying. It's about being true to yourself.
Yeah, and I think, I think it enables people, because I'm pondering this a lot, because I'm writing my second book at the moment, and I think there's a sense of, there's a need in leadership for community. We, as individuals, we need community, and you don't have community if you don't need anybody. You need people. People need to see that you need them. I don't mean that in a sick kind of codependency way, but I wouldn't be able to do this podcast if you didn't come on it. I need people to be on it. Otherwise I'd just be talking to myself, and that'd be really boring. Like my magazine, I need people to read it. So therefore I want people to recommend it. I need people to do stuff in the same way people need me to do stuff. And I think it's like, I've always kind of checked in on people, because I like people, so I was just like, oh, I'm going to do for you for a while, what's going on? And what I've noticed in this period, that my behaviour for doing that hasn't changed, but people are now acknowledging that that's really helpful, and they're honest in the response. So whereas before people were like, yeah, everything's fine, and they may eventually say, actually, I could, could you help me with this, or could you do that, or whatever. Whereas now people are like, yeah, I'm so glad that you got into touch, and people are feeling that kind of, that need for community is no longer hidden, is it? It's more like open.
Yeah. And actually, that I would say is another thing that makes a successful coach. You don't need to be in a vacuum. That need for community and connection is so important.
Yeah.
So important, because when you have that, everything changes.
Yeah, and I think people misunderstand as well, in the sense that some people will see that as a method of getting more work, like marketing activity, rather than like human interaction. So I know, like the last few days, I've literally gone through my LinkedIn messages and connected with people meaningfully that I haven't spoken to probably in over a year. Not a lot, maybe about 20 people, but I, genuinely want to know if they're, it's not a marketing thing. It's just like, I haven't heard from you. I haven't seen you posting. You're being okay. And most of those people have come back, and we've had a genuine conversation. This is not about work. This is not about referring me. This is like, Ruth, how are you doing? And I think it's good for both parties, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. It is good. It's that mutual benefit, isn't it? Yeah. And we're not meant to be on our own. I mean, what this year has taught us. Yeah. And I was smiling because even before this, I went out. We were meant to go for a longer walk, me and my husband, but we got out of the house and we just, we met the people on the street, and we've become good friends with the people on our street during lockdown because of connection.
Yeah, you know what? It's a bit like I hesitate to say this, but like when we was doing the clapping, you're like, oh look, that's my neighbour. Hello, what's your name? And it's almost like that equivalent of meeting people on the bus on the same time every week, and eventually going like, I meet you here for the last 4 months. Hello. And that's a bit like, I feel like the where I live feels a bit more, it's on the main road and everything. I think it feels a bit more community driven because you've like seen someone across the road clapping. So now you might see them in the local shop and you'll go, oh, how are you? And you have that kind of conversation.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, you live on here as well, don't you? And it's lovely.
It was... one of the funny things that happened to me was not during the lockdown, but a little while ago, I bumped into somebody I used to go to school with, and then it turns out they live literally like 2 streets away, and we've both lived here for over 10 years, and it's like, you're kidding me. Wow. Like, we were really good friends at school, and you're like, you are literally 5-minute walk away, and we've never bumped into each other.
That's so funny. Well, it was meant to be. The universe brought you back together.
I know, it's kind of weird. Okay, so talking about weirdness, I think that sums both of us up, actually.
Yeah, probably. I always say difference is good. I say that to my girls every day. Difference is good.
I say it's okay to be weird, but I think that's the same thing.
It is the same thing.
So I think it's probably a good place to stop. But before I did that, do you have any sort of lasting point you might make, or anything you thought, you should have asked me this and you didn't, you stupid woman?
I never would think you're a stupid woman. You're amazing. But what I would say is really the secret to success as a coach starts in your mind. You need to believe that you have the ability to be a successful coach before you do it. It is that believing, and it's that commitment to yourself. If you commit to yourself that you're going to do it, you'll do it. If you are wishy-washy, your results will be wishy-washy. Like anything.
I like that. That reminds me, I never use the word to try, because I realised many years ago, when I say try, I mean, that's my polite no. I've tried to do that when I'm like, there's absolutely no way I'm doing that. Right? So whenever I hear myself, I'll try, I always just stop and go, yes, I'll do that. Or, you know what? I don't have any intention of doing that. And actually own it straight away. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, try. I mean, the word itself is so weak. I'm going to try. No, you're not going to try. You're going to do it. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I hate the word try.
Because I did realise that over the years, I was like, oh yeah, when I say try, I just mean no.
Purely mean no.
So let me be honest about it. No, Ruth, I'm not doing that. That's really cool. Would you come back again and talk about something else?
Oh my God, yeah, I could talk to you all day. 100%.
You are so cool.
100%.
Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Ruth as much as I enjoyed having it. If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. And finally, if you would like to work with us or just interested in finding out more about the Maverick at work, check out our website maverickparadox.co.uk.